Hey guys, welcome to the Always Go Far podcast with your host Patrick Farnan, and I am so grateful that I've got this amazing guest, Khoi, my friend and also fellow coach, and a martial artist as well on the quiet, on the down low. Like you wouldn't want to mess with this guy in a dark alley. And today we're going to go through what is coaching? Like, what is this space? It's this personal development, mentoring. There's so many different ways to work with and help with so many people out there at the moment, and just trying to get our 2 cents, our perspectives on what coaching, mentoring, and how it actually works, and how we can implement that into your life. And is it something for you, what you need right now? So, Khoi, welcome, mate.
I appreciate it. Always love coming onto this and having a yarn, as they say.
Yeah,
so trying to get used to the slang and colloquialism of what we say, because
come with your own language.
That's another story.
Come with your own language after this. The colloquialisms of the podcast. We've been coaching for a little while. We both met on our first junior coaching course when we were knee highs to a grasshopper and barely knew anything. What did you know about coaching back then, or before you joined a course?
Oh man, so we've been coaching, both of us, because we started at the same time for a few years now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you started. Maybe you started the same as me, where I think it was just when COVID started to hit, for me, where I really delved into it further when COVID started to hit, and I just started attending events because of COVID. I didn't have a job, and I was trying to use this time to be an entrepreneur, I guess, going to business boot camps, trying to find my whys, all that sort of stuff. And then, just found a particular school or college that was group of people that was teaching coaching at the time, and it just kind of clicked at the time. Did you start the same way?
I think I started on a whole bunch of different courses and that sort of stuff. It was more around finance and trying to invest money and almost, it's not really get rich quick schemes, but stuff in real estate, stuff in stocks, stuff in any of that sort of stuff, where the stuff that I knew that felt like I was working on myself or working to a better future. And I think it really kind of shifted when I did the Ironman. I was in the triathlon space, and sport, we've got coaches from footy to all these other things. And so my mate was you probably just do a course on this and sell a course around coaching. You've done all the cold showers, you've done all the things. Maybe that's something that could be valuable. And little did I really know the depths of what coaching and what was it all about. I think I came in there very ignorant compared to, I think, what you might have done on other courses. And so it's kind of been a fascinating journey. And you were kind of saying that you were interested, when you started your entrepreneur, I'm going to make something of this coaching space, that there was something that you were kind of interested in that space. What drew you into coaching?
Yeah, first off, you mentioned a really great point of when you were doing Ironman and training for that, and there was coaches. Man, trying to understand what a coach is nowadays, I think you really have to break it down. When you I know I need you asked me a question, and we're going off on a bit of a tangent here.
We're going on many tangents.
When you've gone, when you started or started exploring this, and I'm careful that I'm not going to, coerce you to go down a certain path when I explain this, but what did you think coaching was?
I thought it was very much go and do this. It was very much action and behavioral, or here's this cool hack. Here's this, it's not even a system for doing things. It was more how do you get more people to do better? And I think I was I did cold showers. I didn't drink alcohol. I was exercising a lot. I kind of know some stuff with engineering. I'd read a couple of books. I thought I'd read a lot of books, and I thought I knew everything, didn't know anything. And so I don't think I really understood the psychology of how our brain works, how we function, and how we ask questions, how we work in the world, or how we work with the world around us. And so I came in there very blind and almost curious background to kind of figure out how it all fitted in.
Yeah, yeah, nice, man. And would you, what would you define, I guess, for the viewers today? Like, what is a coach?
Yeah, I think like there's lots of different coaches and modalities and spaces. Like it can range from like Reiki all the way to breathing to, the seventh chakra and, anything from men's, females, business, all this sort of coaching. And the modalities of how we use it, like it could be breathing, it could be all these different things out there. But the thing that I kind of focus on and the thing I enjoy most and I feel like is the most effective is the ability to change stories and ask lots of questions. I think coaching is mainly questioning to try to understand who we are and why we do what we do. It's the thing that I'm most fascinated by. And I think it's the thing that most people want to avoid is actually answering a question. It seems like it's almost like the last resort because people try to understand it through different medicinal purposes, read into that what you want, or, the long way around a lot of these processes as opposed to just kind of facing it in the mirror, like trying to like ask yourself these questions and create an awareness of yourself. So it's a tough path. Like I reckon it's a really, really hard path for people to go on, but it's incredibly valuable. I call it almost like a mental Ironman or a mental process where you actually have to go and do the hard things, and at the end you get a reward for it. But people are very afraid to go into it, and that's probably because of my background. How do you see coaching at the moment? What do you see that it achieves, or the purpose of it?
Yeah, so how I see coaching, I think when we first started, when we went to the same school I was teaching, one of the things that I did like how they explained it was a coach is someone who helps or asks questions and believes in their client having all the answers already within themselves or able to find it, that sort of thing. My definition for that has since evolved into lots of other things now, but it was a really great base to have that. And I would actually name that as a life coach now. So not simply just a coach, but a life coach. A life coach believing that their client has everything within themselves to get the answer that they want.
Yeah.
And so adding on more to the definition, looking outside in, you were talking about how there were coaches when you're doing Ironman, and I would assume nowadays, and correct me where I'm wrong, Patrick, because you're probably much more of an expert here, of a sports coach. A sports coach might not be doing that sort of mindset, maybe a little bit, but the sports coach actually telling you got to do this to get this result. I remember you saying something like, if you want to run a marathon, again, correct me where I'm wrong, that you just got to do the yards first. Like you don't have to run a marathon within a day, but if you run a marathon straight away, but if you space it out over the day and then build up to just that single time, the single time to run a marathon, then they're cool. But otherwise, you might have to start off with running 5Ks, 10 times or something in a day.
Yeah, like I think the way the sports coach works, well, at least in the endurance space, is this is the system to be able to get to your goal, and you've just got to go out and do the system, especially if it's running. I think people try to overcomplicate marathons and ultras and that sort of stuff because 80% of it is just going out there and running, and the ability to go out and run continuously and not get injured and not get hurt in the process, and to build on that. And so if a coach says, here's your program, and you just follow the program, more than often, like 95% of the time, you're going to get there. Because that's kind of what I did. I always had a coach that said, just follow this. And there was no real depth to try to understand the psychology behind the mindsets of it and the the different perspectives. Like there's insights, there's beliefs, there's little like hacks and tips and tricks. But the bulk of it is basically the structure of it, which is quite repeatable, and for me was quite boring in terms of a coaching space. However, like you kind of get into team stuff, and you got like people dynamics, which becomes a little bit more interesting. But I feel like a lot of coaches wouldn't go to a course on people and try to understand people. It's just like, well, you kind of do this, and people kind of moving down that path. How do you see, say, like a sports coach from like an outside looking in, different to say someone in the coaching space, in like not really life coaching, but just in understanding the world differently?
Yeah, that outside looking in. Hey, it's probably a really great conversation that we're jumping into, because when you explained what a coach was in the Ironman space or marathon space or fitness space, it was basically like they just give you a plan and you do it. My question would be, would that not be a personal trainer?
Yeah.
What's the difference? Like,
it's exactly the same. Like it's the question I've always been curious about is like, why do you have a personal trainer that gives you like a 12-week program, a 4-week program? You just go and do the reps and sets in the gym as you're being told. Then how does that differ to like a group fitness versus like PT? The PT is just there holding your hand to do the 12-week program. And so I'm guessing it's almost a level of connection with people that we're looking for, or almost a level of accountability, someone to hold us to an accord. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, definitely. So looking at when when I first jumped into the coaching space, I was looking for jobs as a coach, like a life coach. And I don't know if you've ever come across this, where on seek.com.au. Well, I'm just going to give him a shout out.
Sponsorship, please sponsorship.
That's probably the biggest, I don't know what you call it, employments place where people put advertisements for jobs, or seeking employment or that sort of stuff. And so looking on that website and seeing sports coach, I thought it was just basically what you said. It's just, here's the plan. That's what it is. And the definition, actually before jumping into that, I think that's why a lot of people are confused about what a coach is, because it's been thrown around so willy-nilly, so freely, that there's just no standard. And it sucks as well that there is no real regulation behind coaches. I don't know how you feel, but it really irks me when there are coaching institutions or guilds, and it's just how I feel, is just a money-making scheme. There's no real official regulation. It's just people saying, hey, if you go by this standard, you're good. But half of them, maybe even most of them, just go, hey, all you have to do is pay a fee and you're part of this guild and you're part of a regulated body. I'm like, nah, that's nothing.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to, a lot of the time, because it isn't regulated, it comes down to confidence in when people go and find a coach, because it's not really based off of skill or merit, but it's their belief in their ability to be able to hopefully get a result for their client. And there are a lot of successful coaches out there financially that aren't great coaches because they don't understand how to question, how to understand and really understand their client's model of the world, like understand how they view it, because everyone's got a different way of viewing things. And I think that's a really good point, is that there are these like systems and structure and things in place. Even I have to kind of point out the idea. You were like, I was on Seek looking for a life coaching thing. And I'm sure like everyone here has found a life coach on like Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram that's like, yeah, I'm a coach. Like, let's kind of connect. And so there's another different belief system of, I wanted a job as a coach as opposed to I'm setting up a business as a coach. And so it's kind of fascinating how, even though it's an unregulated industry, there's still jobs and stuff in place within that. And so for you, what was the idea of maybe searching to become a coach and like help people and go down that path?
Uh, just just going balls deep into the coaching world, as they say. I wanted to, so didn't have a job at the time, jumping into coaching, wanted to practice my skills 24/7. You know me, when I first
Yeah.
started, I was just knocking out the knowledge, just doing the work. Uh, and the school that we were learning from, their strategy was to give out free sessions. Just
Mm.
give out free sessions, do the work, practice it, and then basically, if you're skillful enough and sales skills and all that sort of stuff, then you'll start getting paying clients,
Mm.
which is true. It definitely does work. There is a strategy behind that. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how
Yeah.
kind of like happened.
It's like a fascinating process, like coaching, because it's unregulated. However, companies come in with like a certain course or a certain curriculum to say that this is how you become a coach. And it is, I think, one of those skills that can be taught and you can learn how to be a coach. And coaching isn't necessarily specified as the job title, but can be subtly applied to almost any job because you're dealing with people. However, it's for an unregulated industry, I think a lot of it comes with experience. It comes with understanding a basic principle and then seeing how that works in a conversation, and a coaching session that drives a result changes the way someone thinks about the current situation. And so when you kind of, like you said, you're going out there, you did all the knowledge, and then you're like, I'm going to like nothing else. I'm going to go implement like nothing else in the world and just get good at understanding the reps. I think some coaches either get caught up in doing no reps and really not really trying to understand the craft, or like just getting so lost in books that they don't actually understand the concept of coaching. I'm not sure how you found that with other coaches in the space.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're talking about now, maybe even the thought of what would you look for in a coach, like, and first, why would you want to coach as well? So, as us as coaches getting paying clients, I think one of the questions for current coaches who do listen and watch this, it's like, how do you do it? Being a sales coach myself, just simply ask the question, like ask for the sale. And people get really, like, if you've never done sales before, it just kind of freaks you out. But it's almost like saying, if you want a lollipop from someone as a kid, can I have that lollipop? That's literally what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
So, so that's a bit of a tangent of what it is like to be a coach. And
maybe we take like a step back into like the why, like what in your mind would make you go, hey, I need a coach right now. Why do I need a coach? Like why would I need a coach? That's probably the question that a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, real great question. I mean, for me, when I jumped into coaching, I didn't know what it was. Do I have a better idea now of why I want to coach? Yeah. Just kind of depends. I mean, if I was to ask you, Patrick, what would be your why as a coach, looking for a coach?
I think one of the things is that quite often we believe that we have all the answers. And I think you want a coach that tells you the way forward, but is really open to trying to understand how you view the world and getting the best results for you. I think it's the idea of a great coach has the ability to ask you and understand your model of the world. And so you need a coach that you believe has had the success, or at least has the skill set in it for you to unpack your thoughts. I think I had a really cool podcast with David Goggins, and I've been in and out of love with this guy. Like, it might be the bald head, it might be the ultra running, it might be doing the hard things that we've kind of connected on, but it's people have got so much scattered thought process in their minds that, some of the family stuff links with the work, and work links with, the dog, and dog links with financial, and we've all got these things in our head that are all over the place. And we're not really aware that we have a problem and that they're all interlinked, but problems just keep happening. And so you're either stuck, you don't know where to go. It's the ability to bring out your thoughts, look at it, and figure out how that fits into your model of the world and whether it's helping you to get what you want. And so I almost see the coach as someone that you work with together to understand what's going in your head so that you can kind of organize it a little bit. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever gone into a room after like a holiday and it's messy from when you left it and you're like, oh, this just doesn't feel good. But you come into like a nice, clean, organized room or apartment and it just feels amazing coming back into. I feel like that's one of the reasons why you'd want a coach, is to help get some clarity and steps moving forward in that process.
Yeah.
And so
yeah. And so, you know, we've spent, well, at least I'll share my figures. I've spent at least 6 figures on coaches over my time, and it's hard to pick it out. Like when you first, let's say you go back in time, right? You go back in time, Patrick. You don't know what coaching is, or you're talking to yourself like 5 years ago where you didn't know what coaching was, and you were like, the 5 years ago Patrick was going, oh, I need something, and you tell your 5 year ago self, hey, get a coach, and they're like, hey, look, I probably only want to spend like $100. What would be your reason why you would spend $100 on a coach, or 5 hours, money on 5 hours worth of coaching or something?
Yeah, I think every process, like it's no secret that every kind of process in coaching has like different levels. So like you do the baby thing and then you do the next size program and then you do the next size program. Like there's kind of a path of getting you awareness and understanding of it. And so what you spend on the coach is like usually reflective on how much you get out of it. Like what are you looking to achieve in this process? And I'm not sure you spend a hell of a lot more than me. I reckon mine's about the 50K mark, which is still a significant amount of money. Like that's a car, a really nice car's worth of money. And you kind of put the question of like, why would you spend 6 figures? Why would you spend 50K? And I look back at it now and it makes a lot of sense, because I realized that I had to start backing myself. Like, I'm not sure your opinion on this, but quite often, like especially in your 20s or 30s, so many people talk about compounding interest on like real estate or stocks or crypto or that sort of stuff. But the only thing you really have is like yourself. And so like if you can bank on yourself and develop skills and understand yourself like no one else, I think one of the biggest traits everyone misses is an awareness of themselves and how they sit in the world. And I think that is a skill it's worth, 5, 10, 15, 20K, because it's so different compared to anyone else in the jobs that they have. And so I think when you look at coaching, like why would you invest so much or so little? Is it's the ability to develop who you are as a person, because you could be a great engineer, or you could be a great salesperson, you could be great this, but we really want to be around people that we enjoy spending time with. And that means that you got to deal with some stuff. You got to get rid of some of your bad habits, some of your bad negative thoughts. And so I'm kind of curious, why, if you were asking your 5-year-old self, your 5-year-old self probably didn't have $100 to his name. If you'd ask yourself 5 years ago, how much would you want to spend on a coach, or like, what would you be looking for? Or what would be your first step?
Yeah. So I've been part of a few masterminds, and for people who don't really know what masterminds are, whether it's in the coaching world or some program or investment thing, it's essentially the top program at the time for that company or that individual, whatever it is. So I've been to a few, and I've got to say, there's been a couple where I've just had a horrible experience. Like they just did not know what they were doing, but they were just good salespeople, and I got suckered in, right?
Oh, don't you hate that? They're probably worse as like a salesperson falling in love with the sales process, but yeah. No. it's like the girl that you meet, you're like, oh, this is so good, and then you meet her later and you're like, Oh, I didn't notice that. Like you were so engrossed in the front end, you forgot about the back end. Anyway, you were disappointed in the back
And
end of some of these programs.
yeah, yeah. And the term for that in terms of a buying context is buyer's remorse. just to just to bring it back and make this conversation a bit more tame.
Just some jargon,
Nah,
just some.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. So what? Like 5 years ago, I think 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago is about the time when I started looking to invest. And you make a really great point. When stereotypical Asian upbringing, told to go to uni and study, and then if you get a degree, you'll get good pay. That's what I was taught.
Mm.
And I think the presentation of that information is correct in a way, but incorrectly presented.
Mm.
And I don't think many of us to this day know how to present that information in a way that's understanding. And I think you touched on it pretty well. And how could I add on to that would be that you're hopefully building that knowledge. If you do go to uni, is you're building that knowledge to further yourself. It might not be something that you want to do. Again, stereotypical upbringing, Asian upbringing, doctor, lawyer, engineer, that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It may not be what you want to do, but it's a skill that you hopefully have for the rest of your life. People might say it's like a backup if you decide to search for something that you actually want to do. In terms of the investment space or coaching space, it's something that you get to keep for yourself forever. And grow, and maybe it's the skill of learning how to study, or learning how to invest your money, or learning how to drive a car. I don't know, whatever it might be.
I think it kind of comes back to, it's the thing I've been ruminating on recently. Tony Robbins, if no one knows about him, check him out. He's probably like one of the top dogs, like the big guys in the personal development space. And there's like two basic rules for a long time. His first rule, that's now his second rule, was like the power of the eighth wonder, the power of getting to know people and around you. And I think that's true for anyone in business. I remember my dad telling me when I was in high school to be like, yeah, stay in contact with all these people and, keep connections. And I was like, I'm an engineer and all these people are doing other things. Why would I want to stay in contact with these people? And over time, you realize as you get older, the power of connecting with people, like how we connected through coaching, how I've connected with other people in different masterminds, in different networking places, and built relationships. And how that leads into the first rule, and Tony Robbins' first rule, which is a bit like wankerish, a little bit to like most guys, but it's like to live in a beautiful state. And like there's a truth to that. Like you want to be around like beautiful people or in a great space. And how that links in is like you want to be someone that people want to hang around, someone that's interesting and is interested. You want to be around people that you like, that you know that you want to hang around with, because everyone's had that person at school or at work that everyone's just drawn to. Like they've just kind of got that center of attention. And so how these two rules interact is that personal development is the ability to become someone that other people want to hang around with and that you can add value to other people's lives. And then as a result, like people not versus people, it's like people versus the machines. People like other people, and so as a result, we don't actually sell or like interact with computers. I mean, that might change in the next 5 to 10 years. However, we've got this idea of wanting to be around people that are really cool, that are really interesting, that add value to our lives. And so when you work on yourself, people will automatically want to hang around you more because you have something of interest. You're not just talking about the footy scores. I'm not sure if that's how you see the real probably undercurrent of personal development and the idea of coaching being in some of these spaces.
Yeah, there's so many angles you can talk about it. You can talk about, for me, not knowing how to socialize previously. So I didn't learn it from coaching. It was personal development. So I did read books early in my 20s because I just didn't know how to socialize.
Mhm.
Was too shy to talk to girls because my parents were like, study, don't hang out with girls, sort of thing. Not verbally, but I understood deep down
There's
that
a strong undercurrent.
yeah. And so I had to learn how to socialize. What other ways can you do it? Then if it's coaching or personal development, then it's kind of like what you said, networking, learning how to network, learning how to build a really great network of people or friends to move forward. I know one of my friends, where you're living in Melbourne, he's starting to build his empire. He's a multimillionaire and he's building up his network. He's learning to socialize in a networking scene. He's actually quite social already. He's an extrovert, but now he's trying to understand how does he network to build up his network. And there's this funny story. I found it interesting, maybe not funny, but I found this interesting story that he told me. So he's a single multimillionaire, and he was telling me that when he was networking, he met this guy who was at the 10 million mark or 20 million mark. And I found it really interesting that he told me that this individual felt like he was still a failure. And the reason why he was a failure was because he didn't reach his target of 50 million net worth or income or whatever it was. So there is definitely different avenues you can think of or develop, and you'll definitely find a coach to help you move forward from that if need be. Some people might even say psychologists were the coaches in the past and current, obviously, as well. You know, they got to get degrees and get regulations and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Like when you go into the depths of understanding that even the people that are successful in multiple areas, they're still craving more. Like there'll be people that have made 50 or 100 million that are still like, you know what? I still want that $500 million. I want that billion, like kind of price tag. And so it becomes really, really fascinating. This has been such an interesting topic that we've kind of dug so many different tunnels and intersected and kind of came apart. Appreciate your time and like to be able to unpack some of this coaching stuff. I trust it's been able to make clear and open your eyes to like what coaching is and personal development and how it can actually help you like pick apart some of the mistakes, some of the errors in that space. And so, yeah, Khoi, loved having you on, mate. Loved discussing this to kind of riff on some opinions and some of the undercurrents that you don't really hear in the space. So, yeah, mate, until next time, I want you to appreciate you for jumping on. And remember, guys, always go far.